specialist for the NRCS based in Ray, Colorado. Julie grew up on a small ranch in eastern Colorado. She's worked with the NRCS since 1991 and is now the rangeland management specialist for over 2 million acres of rangeland in Yuma, Washington, and Kit Carson counties. So, Julie, I'm going to turn this over to you.
Well, thank you very much, Tanya. I appreciate it. Yeah, this is neat to be part of this project. It has a great opportunity to provide tremendous information to both range managers and to ranchers. So we're looking forward to seeing what we get from contribution and from this wide range of people that are here. It's a great project. However, it doesn't do us a lot of good to take pictures if we don't know what we're looking for in the pictures. So what I'm going to focus on is what we're looking for on the range and what we're trying to document in these photos. So why monitor rangeland? Well, one of our characteristics as busy people is that we don't go out on the range and really look at it. We are pretty good, though, at looking at the infamous fence line contrast to determine if our neighbors wasted grass or not. For example, the only difference on one side of this fence to the other in this picture is how the pasture was grazed. The soils are the same, potential plants are the same, but this is not the kind of photo we're hoping for with this project. Then there are times when we get a pretty darn good idea of what's out there, or maybe what's not out there, just by driving by at 65 miles an hour, stopping on the road and taking a look. And we can tell that this pasture has been overgrazed, and we can know that no matter what happens in 2014 precipitation-wise, this pasture is going to experience drought. But this is not the kind of photo we're hoping for either. Since we really want to know what's out there, we need to stop the pickup, get out, and walk around. So now we're walking, remember? Even on foot, we need to be careful not to make our assessment based on looking across the range. For example, here's a piece of range. It looks pretty good on the 31st of May, 2013, particularly considering that at this point, this area was sitting at a 31% precipitation deficit for the year, after ending at a 50% of average precipitation from the previous year. Most of the green that you see here is needle and thread with a little western wheat and some blue grama. But here's that same piece of ground looking down. It's a totally different view, isn't it? For scale, there's a pickup key just up to the right of center of the picture. You can see the little white tag reflecting in the sun. If we really want to know what's happening on our range, we have to look down. There it is. But what are we looking for? Well, how about if we start with how much grass is really out there? Roy Roth, a CSU Extension Range Specialist, he once made the point to me that cows don't eat acres. Cows eat grass. So it doesn't matter how many acres you have. It matters how much grass you have. So how much grass do we really have here? Looking across this pasture, we can see there's quite a bit of green, and green means grass, right? Well, I haven't done any scientific studies, but it does seem apparent that the color green has a profound effect on ranchers. When everything's a brown, we just kind of go along, everything's fine, but as soon as green shows up, we start looking for cows, because if it's green, it's growing, right? And if it's growing, we better put some livestock on it. Well, I'm very sorry to say that green does not translate into growing. Green equals photosynthesizing, not necessarily growing. And green is not always something to eat. Sometimes it is an indicator that things are drastically wrong. On the 14th of November, the green here is none other than our good friend cheatgrass, or downy brome. And yes, cheatgrass is tasty, but at 2 inches, it's not forage any more than your shag carpet is. Otherwise, we can see some blue grama seed heads, and that gives us the impression that there's pretty decent cover out here. But looking down, we can see how much grass cover there is. Again, there's my pickup key kind of in the middle. It's really reflecting this time. You can see it pretty easily. We also get a much clearer picture of what kind of grass make up this cover, which is the second thing we need to look at while we're looking down at our pastures. Now, it's not so important that you know all the names of the plants, but you do need to know which ones are tasty and when they are tasty, and which ones are not tasty ever. We also need to know which plants live from year to year, called perennials, and which ones live less than 12 to 18 months, called annuals or biennials. So blue grama, for example, is tasty pretty much year-round, and it lives from year to year for decades. It isn't exactly hogging up all the soil space here, though, is it? The green in this picture is cheatgrass, which started growing in the fall or early spring, and then it heads sometime in May or June, and then dies. Now, it is good feed for cows for a short period of time, but then it's gone. So what's missing in this picture? This is a sand site. So where are all the other sand grasses that should be out here? Now this pasture, we could probably all easily agree, isn't exactly in stellar condition on the 17th of May last year. But what do you think? If we let it sit for a month until mid-June, we should be able to put some cows out there, right? I mean, there's green grass sticking up there. There's some old plants. Yeah, it should be good in 30 days. Oh, but here's looking down. I promise this is the same location we were just looking across. If you said, yeah, another month will be good, do you still think so? How much grass cover is really out here? This is the same pickup key we've been looking at, so in the photo is an area about 9 square feet. Remember I said the first thing we're going to note is how many living plants are out there. And cows don't eat acres, cows eat grass. So notice the 2 plants down at the bottom right, just above and below the date stamp. See how they're pulled out? What are those? Well, if you've been out and around on the range this year, well, you've seen this guy. This is 6 weeks fescue, or some people call it June grass or spit out grass, because that's exactly what cows do when they get it in their mouths. They spit it out. There were not any cows in this pasture. Someone else got a hold of these plants and then promptly deposited them back on the ground. Something that gets spit out is not going to feed a cow or anyone else. If we didn't look down on the range, we would miss this important factor and just notice that it was green. The next feature to note is what else is or is not on the ground. The most important of these are dead grass plants, bare ground, and litter. Now, even in the best of condition, there are plants that die every year. And droughts like those that we've had for the last 2 to 12 years, depending on where you are, those plant losses are even higher. Dead plants will not grow leaves no matter how much rain you pour on them. Dead plants are easy to find in the summer, at least in summers that turn green. The dead plants are the ones that are not green. Pretty easy. But when living grasses are dormant, whether winter or summer, they're not green, but they do have a tan color to them. Dead grasses have a black or a dark gray color. Here's a good close-up, down-looking photo. You can see the tan leaves with a little hint of red. These are the living plants. But what about those black-brown areas below the 17 to the 19-inch marks on this yardstick? These are dead. They may send up a new bud, but the old plants are done. They are not going to turn green. The green plants in this picture are 6 weeks fescue, or that spit-out grass. On the yardstick, about half of the plants along this 9-inch length are dead. Now, 9 inches is not a good measure for your entire pasture. You need to look at numerous areas and then estimate how much of the plant cover is living versus dead across your whole pasture. The next characteristic to note is bare ground. Now, bare ground gives a place for seed germination and recruitment. So this is good if you want to get some better species started, but it's bad if you have annuals or other undesirable plants looking for new territory. Just like crop ground, bare range ground heats up faster. It evaporates more moisture. It soaks in water slower, and it is more likely to wash or blow than ground that is covered. The hotter the ground is, the less friendly it is to roots or the microorganisms living in the soil. We need active microorganisms because they release nutrients, and nutrients feed plants. Once these little microorganisms die or go into survival mode, it takes some time for them to reactivate once favorable conditions return. Litter. Litter is important. It protects the soil from wind and water erosion. It keeps the soil cooler, so the water that soaks in the soil stays longer. This improves the living conditions for the root systems and the microorganisms. The more litter cover we have, the faster our range will recover. Most of the ground in this picture is covered with plant litter. The grasses here are needle and thread, western wheatgrass, and blue grama, all tasty plants, all perennial plants, plants that live numerous years that we want. We don't see any cheatgrass or 6 weeks fescue, that spit-out grass, stuff we don't want. This pasture is in great position to withstand continued drought and to really recover once a favorable precipitation pattern returns. Remember, acres do not feed cows. Grass feeds cows. So this project is asking you to take some pictures of your best and your worst range. Photos can help you identify changes sooner, whether it's an improvement as a result of new management system, or stress as a result of drought, or a change in management or other unfavorable conditions. There might be more cheatgrass or more bare ground, but we don't want to see it. Photos help to keep us honest and are far more reliable than our memories. There's no windier winter than the one that we just went through, right? Every year is like that. Here's an example of range that looks like it's in good shape. We can see there's some really tall sand blue stem seed heads, and the only bare ground we see is the trail. Now, this is not a good picture for monitoring because the yardsticks in the middle of the trail. Looking across the range, it made a good picture, and it was easy to get the yardstick to stay standing, so that's why I used the trail. But what would we see if we looked down, if we didn't move the yardstick? We'd see the trail. Well, that's going to pick up bare ground, an indicator we don't want. So here's a down-looking picture in the same area, but I did move the yardstick, which we don't want to do for this photo study. You want to keep your measuring device in the same place for the across and the down-looking photo. So do you remember what we were looking for when we looked down at our range? Remember, we are looking to see how much grass we have and what kinds of grasses are there. Remember, it's not so important that you know the names. You just need to understand their position on the range. Are they tasty or not tasty? Do they live a long time or do they live a short time? We are also looking for dead grass plants, for bare ground, and for litter cover. So looking down on this site, it confirms our idea that this range is in good shape. We don't see the things we don't want to see. We don't see a lot of dead grass. We sure don't see bare ground. And there's plenty of litter cover and just ground cover from the plants that are there. So here's another shot. This range looks pretty good, looking across. Perhaps this could be an example of our best range. Oh, but wait, we need to look down too, remember? Ah, here's the same site looking down. To determine good, bad, or indifferent condition, we are looking for grass cover. What kind of grass makes up that cover? And the amount of dead plants, bare ground, and litter. Maybe this is your best range. Maybe it's not. The important thing is to make that determination not just by looking across the range, but by looking down at it too. And while you're looking down, you just might learn a bit more about your range or raise some questions like who passed through here first, the greater prairie chicken, the predator, or the boot wearer. And you might find a meadowlark's nest. So any questions or comments?